There are so many horror stories of athletes amassing unthinkable fortune early in their careers, but have vanished in an instant after their retirement due to a variety of reasons. Former New York Knicks guard Latrell Sprewell decided to turn down a $21 million contract late in his career because, according to him, that amount will not feed his family. After giving that statement and declining the contract, he then proceeded to buy a yacht. No NBA team has ever signed him after that. Chicago Bulls legend Scottie Pippen's purchase of a private jet and multiple bad investment decisions resulted in years of financial hardship and legal battles. Both Mike Tyson and Evander Holyfield declared bankruptcy after earning $300 million and $350 million respectively during their illustrious careers. Las Vegas casinos accused former Boston Celtics star Antoine Walker of amassing more than $800,000 in gambling debts and have lost all of his $100 million career earnings because of gambling habits, huge entourage, and multiple luxury cars. New York Jets backup quarterback Mark Brunell has a number of real estate investments in a tanking Florida market during the 2008 financial crisis. Ex-Philadelphia Phillies center fielder Lenny Dykstra, who bought and unsuccessfully tried to flip Wayne Gretzky's $17 million home, was indicted for bankruptcy fraud and faces charges of grand theft auto and indecent exposure. Philadelphia 76ers legend Allen Iverson lost all $200 million career and endorsement earnings after regularly having 50 people in his entourage, and regularly throwing $20,000 on clothes and $40,000 on strip clubs. He also spent $20,000 monthly on restaurants and groceries, plus $1,000 on dry cleaning and $126,000 on mortgages. He gave former teammate Larry Hughes a $200,000 Bentley, and at one point, he forgot where he parked his car at an airport, and rather than asking for help to find it, he ditched it and bought a new one. Professional players are not generally known for shrewd financial judgment, and you couple that with these kinds of recklessness and it usually earns athletes more ridicule than sympathy. But these players were the complete opposite. They have managed to put to good use the earnings they got from playing in the NBA and used it to become the ultramillionaires they are today. Number 1. Jeff Foster. When you look Jeff Foster up on YouTube, you will probably find more of him being dumped on by somebody like Amari Stoudemire or Shaquille O'Neal than any of his personal highlights. He had a strong college career. That's why the Golden State Warriors selected him with the 21st pick of the 1999 draft before trading him to the Indiana Pacers. Foster, who was 6'11" and who was loved by Pacers fans because of his toughness and hustle, entered the NBA with advantages many of his fellow players lack when it comes to managing their monies. He grew up in an upper-middle-class home, and his mother worked as a high school principal in San Antonio, Texas, while his father ran a property management company. When Foster graduated from high school, his relatives gave him $1,000, which he invested in 2 mutual funds, as he always had an interest in finance. His 4-year, $4.34 million rookie deal was much less lucrative than those of NBA superstars, but compared with the average American, he was rich. He used some of that rookie earnings in his initial forays into investing, which coincided with the peak of the internet bubble. He was extremely aggressive in investing early on, and he put a lot of money on an internet fund. He watched it go up about 20% in the first couple of months, but then it dropped significantly after that. He considers himself fortunate for having learned that early lesson. By the time he signed his second deal with the Pacers in 2000, a 6-year, $30 million contract, he had become a much more conservative investor. Although he declined to provide the exact amount of his savings, he did provide a breakdown, by percentage, of his portfolio. 33% is in fixed income, largely municipal bonds. 11% is invested in managed real estate apartment buildings and student housing that provide Foster with monthly income and tax breaks without the headache of personally overseeing properties and tenants. 8% is allotted to private equity, and 7% is in private investments. He kept 28% of his savings in cash. That's why when the 2011 NBA lockout hit, Foster was among the lucky ones who were unscathed. During a lockout, most NBA players, even those under contract, stopped receiving paychecks and are scrambling for backup jobs, including signing up to play in overseas leagues. Today, Foster is busy with his different business endeavors and is continuing to grow the fortune that he got while playing the game that he loves. Number 2, Junior Bridgeman. Ulysses Jr. Bridgeman played for the Milwaukee Bucks and the Los Angeles Clippers from 1975 to 1987. He was drafted 8th overall by the Los Angeles Lakers in 1975 and was involved in the blockbuster trade that sent Kareem Abdul-Jabbar from the Bucks to the Lakers. He began making his fortune right after retirement. The average NBA salary nowadays is $9.7 million, and it wasn't even remotely close during Bridgeman's days. His highest salary came during the 1985 season with the Clippers when he made $350,000, and he knew then that it wasn't enough to sustain his family for life. He needed to do something. He started working his way into a Wendy's restaurant to learn the ins and outs of the restaurant and franchising business. After gaining enough knowledge, he used the earnings that he made in the NBA to put up his own Wendy's franchise. That would be the first giant step towards building Bridgeman Foods, a corporation that owns multiple restaurants all over the United States. Junior got Wendy's when they were not as big as they are today. That helped him build a restaurant empire, owning 160 Wendy's and 120 Chili's restaurants. Bridgeman Foods Incorporated employs 11,000 people and generates over $500 million annually. In 2016, Bridgeman sold Bridgeman Foods Incorporated and became a bottler for the Coca-Cola Company. He also bought legacy black media Ebony and Jet through his Bridgeman Sports and Media, winning the $14 million bid after the magazine declared bankruptcy in 2020. The unbelievable moves that Bridgeman made after his NBA career had set him up for life, and he remains at the top of the list of the richest former athletes in the world. Currently, his net worth sits at $620 million. Number 3, Vinnie Johnson. Dennis Rodman. Bill Laimbeer. Isaiah Thomas. Joe Dumars. Rick Mahorn. John Sally. Adrian Dantley. Vinnie Johnson. During the 1980s, those names were equivalent to the NBA to only one word: notoriety. The Detroit Bad Boys Pistons' physical style made them the most despised team at the dawn of the 80s and the start of the 90s. But one player who never gained as much reputation as the other players, but nevertheless associated with such characterization, was Vinnie Johnson. Fittingly given the nickname the Microwave, Johnson provided the Bad Boy Pistons with clutch shooting and crucial scoring off the bench. But his biggest break would come after his playing career. Johnson retired from the NBA at the end of the 1992-93 season and spent the final 2 years of his career with the San Antonio Spurs. He had a career earnings of a little over $6 million and used it to start his own company, the Piston Group, which made packaging supplies for automakers. In 1995, about a year into the business, he stumbled upon a newspaper interview with Harold Kuttner, General Motors' Vice President of Global Purchasing. Johnson picked up the phone and called Kuttner and told him about his business. At the time, his company was only doing $50,000 worth of business with GM. After 2 months, Kuttner was in Johnson's plant checking out the business. GM slowly funneled business to his company. By the end of 1996, the Piston Group had generated $1 million in gross revenue. Within a decade, it was generating $100 million annually. Their customer list includes Detroit's Big Three, Ford, GM, and Chrysler, as well as Toyota, Nissan, and Honda. Under Johnson's leadership, the Piston Group boasts over $2.9 billion in annual revenues and has expanded from a single facility in Detroit to multiple locations, including those in Michigan, Missouri, Ohio, and Kentucky. Today, Johnson has the same net worth as Shaquille O'Neal, which is around $500 million, and still growing. Not bad for someone who at one time was only remembered for being a member of probably the most notorious team in league history. Number 4, Dave Bing. The late 70s and early 80s were considered the down years for NBA players. More than half of the teams were losing money, attendance was down, and arenas were playing at about 58% of their capacity. The league was also riddled with drugs-related problems, and relevant games such as the playoffs and the finals were on tape delays. Due to these circumstances, player salaries at that time were nowhere near the average player salaries of today, which is $9.7 million. Majority of players then were lucky to earn north of $5,000 annually. And even though Dave Bing, one of the greatest to ever play and who has multiple All-Star and first-team selections under his belt, was one of the highest-paid players at the time who earned $250,000 in his final season, he started to realize that he has to prepare for his life after basketball. So when Bing's career ended after the 1977-78 season, he was ready. Using an obsolete slitter donation by General Motors, he began cutting cold-rolled steel to size and shipping it to automakers in 1980. That's when Bing Steel, a company that supplies steel and parts to big automakers, was born with 4 employees and a rented warehouse. To get the business going, Bing spent $80,000 of his own money and has incurred $250,000 in debt. Starting a business is a challenge, but starting a business in a declining industry is daunting. He lost all his money in 6 months. The blows and obstacles that he encountered could have easily wrecked any startup business. At the time, players didn't have the star power and the cachet that they do today, whereas Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Shaquille O'Neal, Steph Curry, or Magic Johnson can easily step into every door of the most influential men and women of America to do business with them. He had difficulty entering the business world because people didn't look at him seriously as a businessman and only wanted to talk basketball with him. Bing felt it was pretty demeaning when many business people canceled their meetings with him even without prior notice. He didn't feel that he belonged. But despite all of this, he persevered. He remained committed to his vision for Bing Steel. Within 3 years, the company became profitable on revenues of $4.7 million due to having GM as its first major client. By 1985, Bing Steel had 2 manufacturing plants, 63 employees, and $40 million in annual profits. From being Bing Steel, it became known as the Bing Group of companies. In 2002, the Bing Group reported earnings of $344 million. And revenues continued to go up until Bing decided to sell the company in 2007 to run for mayor of Detroit in 2009. From having just 4 employees and earning just $1.7 million in 1980, Bing has turned his small company into the 5th largest African-American-owned firm in America with 1,500 people in its employ. Number 5. Jamal Mashburn. Jamal Mashburn is most notably known for his success in the NBA. The former All-Star spent over 20 years with the Dallas Mavericks, Miami Heat, and New Orleans Hornets. Unfortunately, Mashburn's career was cut short as a result of injuries. During the 2003-2004 season, he played just 19 games with the Hornets. He wound up sitting out when the team made the playoffs that season. Despite injuries plaguing him for large stretches throughout his career, Mashburn retired with a career 19.1 points per game average. Following his retirement and with a natural knack for team building, Mashburn took his skills straight to the business world without missing a beat. Mashburn successfully assembled a team of savvy professionals specializing in administration, finance, project management, insurance, and advertising. This rockstar team quickly developed an ownership model that resulted in an impressive business portfolio. To date, Mashburn has ownership interests in numerous restaurant franchises, namely 38 Outback Steakhouse restaurants, 40 Papa John's pizza franchises, and 3 Dunkin' Donuts. He also has Toyota and Lexus car dealerships, real estate, and the thoroughbred horse racing industry. Mashburn has taken full advantage of the opportunities afforded to him by amassing a portfolio of 100 businesses and now sets his sights on owning an NBA team. NBA players, especially superstar players, have all the advantages in the world preparing for life after basketball. It is solely in their hands to maximize those advantages and opportunities to build their lives after their playing days are over. Preparing early and thinking about the future separates those who did and those who ended up as cautionary tales.